as a distribution partner, we are truly an extension of their business. Being committed to solving the problem and ensuring the customer gets what they paid for, communication is the foundation of it.
I love it. And it's so serious to take your customer service. You have to respect it, and you have to respect every customer that you have on the same. Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing Podcast, your go-to resource for mastering leadership excellence in the dynamic world of electronics. I'm your host, Sanne Winding, and I'm so excited you're here. I'm here to bring you insightful interviews with industry leaders from distribution, the manufacturing sector, and also manufacturing reps. Before we start, I have a small request. If you're enjoying our podcast on platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please hit the follow button. Your support is going to help us to bring in even more amazing guests to share the valuable knowledge. So thank you for listening in. If you want to learn more, check out our website. It's called leadershipinmanufacturing.com. Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing Podcast. I'm your host, Sanne Winding, and here you will find valuable knowledge, practical tips, and inspiration tailored to elevate your leadership in the manufacturing sector. So join us on this leadership journey of growth and success to become a much better leader. Before we start, I have a little favor. If you could hit that subscribe button, maybe you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or maybe you're watching on YouTube. So please subscribe. It's going to help the whole show. So let's go back. So I have an awesome guest today. So today I want to introduce Dave Gulas. Dave is the president and co-founder of EZDC 3PL, where he specializes in helping e-commerce brands scale through reliable and affordable fulfillment solutions. He's also a host of a podcast, and that one is named Beyond Fulfillment Podcast. And I love it. I love to have somebody who knows, what it is to be on this side of the microphone. And Dave engaged with entrepreneurs and sharing valuable insights about their experience about logistics. So we can hear more about that. But welcome, Dave. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Sanne. I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So we had a little pre-talk here. So let's just, jump into it, because I was like, the company name, right? It's EZDC 3PL. Help me out. I thought it was a license plate. No, what is it?
Yeah, so it stands for easy, like the word easy, like easy distribution center. Because part of why we started this is we encountered a lot of e-commerce companies that had a lot of problems and challenges with their 3PL or with their distribution partners. And given our experience and our background, we thought we could provide a much better solution and make it easy for them.
Yeah.
And thus came the name. And funny story too about the name. When we were starting it, me and my partner, we were like, okay, what are we going to call it? And I always have a lot of ideas. So I said, I'll come up with something. And I was writing out names, and I had like 10 names or so, and easy this and simple that. And I was kind of like stumped. And so after a couple of days, I said, listen, this is what I have so far. Maybe you have some ideas based on that.
Yeah.
And my partner saw the list, and he's like, EZDC, that's the name. You got to use it. That's brilliant. And so I had the name, but I wasn't even like so crazy about the beginning. But he's like, no, we got to do that. And then later we added 3PL to it, because when we said EZDC, no one knew what that meant. So we changed it to EZDC 3PL, and that's the name.
That's good. Thank you for explaining it. It helps much better. But you should still get that license plate, right? I think if
yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, great idea. You can pay me later for that one. No, okay. I want to hear about what excites you about this industry. So if you can go a little bit deeper on maybe how you got into the industry, or what is it that every day when you get out of bed, right, and you're just saying, I love my job.
Well, so I've been in sales my entire adult life. I'm very early on, from even as a teenager and thereafter, I was always in some sort of sales job, and I just gravitated towards it. I like dealing with people. I've been good at it, and it's provided an excellent career for me. And so that's part of it. And when we started EZDC, our team has 20 plus years of generic pharmaceutical distribution experience.
Yeah.
In that particular niche we came from, it's dealing with small business owners, it's dealing with independent pharmacies, and it's all medication. Everything goes overnight, everything's urgent, and things go wrong all the time. And so we're always used to a high-touch customer service experience, solving problems on the fly, and making sure that the product gets delivered regardless, because someone's waiting on it and it's urgent. So when we transitioned over to logistics, we're targeting a niche of emerging e-commerce brands where they're oftentimes too in need of better service and just a partner that really understands them. And there's often flexibility or customized type solution because every company is different.
Yeah.
So here I get to solve problems, I get to help other small business owners, and I get to sell and get to sell something that I help create. And
Yeah.
so it's been a joy
Tick all the
to help,
boxes. Yeah. For you,
yeah,
right?
to build
Yeah.
this company and meet a lot of wonderful people and to really help them achieve their goals, and
Yeah.
thus it helps us as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you touched a little bit on service, right? Because I think that is so important. And it's become even more important now, that it's like expectation or how do you communicate, when you are buying from anyone, right? Or you have this kind of, yeah, where you work together. So I want to ask you about, because I'm pretty sure with service, right? You have to build a really good company culture behind it so you can provide this amazing service to your customers. So how do you make sure that you're building and still fostering a good company culture?
Well, I mean, it starts with our key team members, right? And being aligned, being on the same page in terms of what our mission is, what our objectives are with each account,
Yeah,
and just really, what we're setting out to do. And same thing goes back to when we started the company, with COVID. All of a sudden, when everything shut down, there was this huge boom in e-commerce. And within the 3PL world, like the supply and the demand kind of got very imbalanced to
yeah,
where there was a huge demand that skyrocketed practically overnight, and only so much supply. So we saw that play out over the subsequent years, where there was oftentimes we'd see complacency, where people
yeah,
on our side were just they're so used to having a high demand and having more leverage in the equation that we saw a lot of people get very complacent and just not really offer
yeah,
quality service in many cases, and that showed with the customer experience. So we wanted to come in and provide something different to where we could show customers that, hey, we are concerned about your business. We are willing to communicate. We can offer customized solutions, and we understand what you're going through, and we want to help. And just having that open line of communication and being willing to maybe do something a little bit outside the box to help someone succeed, and having more of a collaborative approach has been very good for us.
yeah. So what happens when something doesn't go after the plan? And I'm not saying you're screwing up, but sometimes things don't go as planned, right? How do you get back on track? What's your process?
So first of all, you need to understand exactly what happened and why it happened, and then what the next steps are. And yeah, we see that all the time too, where maybe it's a carrier mistake.
Yeah.
Um,
Or it's weather, right? I'm sure weather sometimes have a big impact.
yeah, weather, absolutely. And sometimes too, just employees of maybe a large company that for whatever reason, I mean, humans are humans, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people just underperform. So it's really just understanding what the situation is, and then, determining what needs to happen next, being transparent with the customer
Yeah.
about what happened, what's next, what the options are if the decision needs to be made, and just really having that mission of getting the objective. If something was supposed to be where it was and that didn't happen, how
Yeah.
can we get it back on track? If something's lost, okay, what are the appropriate next steps? But just being committed to solving the problem and ensuring the customer gets what they paid for, and
Yeah.
their customer too gets what they were promised. And anyone in logistics can attest that so many things can go wrong
Yeah.
at any given time, but you just really have to have that as your guiding principle as far as
Yeah.
making sure that people get what they pay. But
So what I'm hearing is right is the transparency and the honesty, that's really important. Is there like other skill set that you see that you possess that's really important to include as well?
I just think, like, some people say empathy, or you hear words like that. I mean, I think it's just really both sides too. I mean, just collaborating and, sometimes too, the customer will have a deadline. It
Yeah.
might be for a particular retailer. There could be maybe a chargeback involved, or there could be extra money that might come out on their side, depending if something's late or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or it could be, whatever the value of the product if something's lost, or it could be whatever other thing they're going through. And then also too, we have our own challenges and our own commitments and things on our end as well. So just really, understanding each other and, making sure that, they know what we can do within our scope and where we are and what
Yeah.
they need accomplished, and just determining together kind of what needs to happen if there's any sort of whatever things go, way off the rails.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just really just people skills in terms of, okay, well, this is what happened. Here's how we can fix it. Does that work for you? And is that going to satisfy
Yeah.
your customer? And if not, then just really figuring out the solution that's going to be best for everyone.
Yeah. It all's down to communication, right? And then sharing that plan to say, this is how we come back on track. Even if you're like a product manager and developing a product, it's similar, right? You get off track, something happens, get back on.
Yeah, I mean, communication is so important, and it's funny that you know that's the number one complaint we get
Yeah.
from the people. Most of the leads we get are coming from other 3PLs, and they're not happy with the service. And the number one reason is lack of communication.
Yeah.
So, we always, even if we don't have the answer right away, we always like to reply and let people know, we received the
Yeah.
communication, we are working on this, and we are going to respond at X
Yeah.
time or
Yeah.
when we get a
Yeah.
response from someone else.
That's
But
awesome.
we see,
Yeah.
yeah, so often people
Yeah.
don't do that, and it causes
Yeah.
huge problems, and it causes a lot of resentment from the customer side when this their business is their livelihood, and
Yeah.
it may seem like their distribution partner is not taking that as serious as they
Serious.
should.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you can face that to anything, if I'm just reflecting on me, if I'm buying something, right? Or if I have to ask a question about some software that I have, if I email and saying, hey, I need help, right? I already did my research to solve it myself, but I still need help. If you just email and it's like radio silent and you're just like, hello, right? Did you get the email, right? You wanna have that email back saying we're on it. Either, we work in a different time zone, so, please be patient. But then you're like, okay, I know they're there. So it's so important to make sure that you have the full loop.
Yeah, and again, we're a newer company. We're just less than 2 years old, and we have a small, very close-knit team, compared to many larger companies. But our customers too often tell us that they enjoy that just because, we're not, we're not bogged down with
Yeah.
maybe hundreds of accounts. And again, the team is very
Yeah.
engaged and committed to growing this. So it's not maybe someone that's just kind of, this isn't my
Yeah.
job, or I'll get to it when I get to it. I
Yeah, or let
mean,
me transfer you, right? And then you transfer, and then it's like, oh, let me transfer you again because you got the wrong number. And then they drop the call. We all been there. Come on, right? So I'm pretty sure not with your company because you are taking really good care of your customers. But there is a certain time, right? You can hear my frustration here. No, but a certain time where you're just like the one where you get directed again and again and again, and you're like, oh, I just need help here, right? And then you feel that you wasted time. So I'm pretty sure that's because of the size of your company and how you communicate. I'm pretty sure that's some of your secret sauce or your company culture that actually is making that customer love you guys.
I mean, just you would be shocked by some of the stories we hear when a brand will have an urgent issue and their only method of getting in touch with their 3PL is an email, and sometimes emails don't get replied to for like a week.
Well,
And they're
yeah,
having a major issue, and they're
yeah,
like, what's going on? And it's a major issue to them, but their distribution partner doesn't see it as a major issue,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
maybe they're smaller on the totem pole, or they're like, well, these guys don't have that big a volume, so whatever.
yeah,
I mean, we hear those stories all the time. So, we want to be, committed to helping people, you know, achieve their goals with their business, and being because as a distribution partner, we are truly an extension of their business.
yeah,
So we just want to have long, successful partnerships, and communication is the foundation of it.
yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's so serious to take your customer service You have to respect it, and you have to respect every customer that you have on the same. So I'm so happy to hear that you seems like you solved it, and it works really awesome for you guys. Um, I wanna hear about a little bit how you learn. I know you have a podcast, so I'm sure tell me a little bit more about that one, and I'm sure that is one of the strengths that comes into how you're learning. But how do you learn, and how are you becoming a better leader?
Okay, so how I learned. So interestingly enough, I'm uh, much more of an auditory learner, to where, I've read a lot of books, but even now I find myself to like most of the books I consume are on Audible because I just learn and retain much better by listening. So
Yeah,
I've noticed that about myself over the last several years, especially. But uh, the biggest way that I've been able to learn, particularly in this logistics founder journey, is just through talking to other people, is having conversations, understanding like real life examples of what people did, what they went through, how they overcame specific challenges.
yeah,
And that was really the reason I started the podcast, because I had so many conversations, whether at trade shows or on networking calls, and I got so much value from them. And one day I just got the idea. It's like, wow, you should start a podcast, because if this was on a public forum, the audience could benefit. It could
yeah,
spotlight the guest. It would help you as well. It could truly be a win-win.
yeah,
So that's where I got the idea. And yeah, I just started it with no experience and no real know-how. Just started doing it and figuring it out as I went.
yeah.
And
And now
and
you're
I have,
here. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's awesome.
yeah.
It's awesome. So being on how to learn and how to be a good leader, how do you know that you are a good leader? Because we talked about skill set, right? What do you need to have a skill set? But I want to be more personal on you and saying, how do you know that you're a good leader?
Well, the biggest indicator, I believe, is just feedback. I mean, feedback from your team, feedback from, anyone else that you're involved with in the day-to-day, feedback from your customers.
Yeah.
So, that's so important. And in terms of how to be a better leader, I mean, that's something that you never stop learning to be a better leader, right? And there's
Yeah.
always new challenges, there's always new growth, there's
Yeah.
always new situations. And particularly as the business evolves, and just as life, what we're facing, even in the world today, evolves, there's always new challenges and things, new skills that you have to develop to continue to
Yeah.
stay operating at your best. So yeah, I'm always looking for ways to improve. And I mean, the biggest way that I determine how I'm doing is just the feedback from the other people I interact with.
Yeah. I love the with the feedback, and sometimes also like reading the room, right? Or reading to say I did not get feedback. So like the gaps, that's something you need to be aware of as well, and maybe grab and saying, hey, this is what was communicated, or this is what we're doing, this is our initiative. But if something is not happening, or you can just see something is off, even though the person won't, maybe the person is not giving you the direct feedback, right? But you're seeing it in the behavior. I think that's important too, to have that kind of, you say you can take the glasses on, right? And saying what should I else look for? Because it's not everybody that will come up to you and saying, good job on this. They'll say that. But if it's something that's maybe not as good, right? It's not everybody who can express it. So then they will do it in how they interact or their behavior.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. It's just that awareness to where if people maybe aren't going to come right out and tell you, but clearly you can pick up on some of those nonverbal cues. Another thing too, it's so important to be humble and to have humility and to be willing to accept critical feedback,
Yeah.
particularly from your team.
Yeah.
Um, and I've noticed too, right? Like, and we all have strengths, things we're good at,
Yeah.
and we also all have weaknesses. So just really being honest with yourself and having an environment where people can just tell you, be honest with you,
Yeah.
maybe about how you could have done something better, or maybe you're not the right person to handle a particular thing. So
Yeah.
just having that environment where everyone can respect each other and appreciate their talents, but also let's just be honest about skill set and who might be best equipped to handle a specific
Yeah. Agree.
task.
Agree. Um, how do you celebrate wins, or how do you celebrate if you had something that was not going well in the beginning and you turned it around? So it was extremely good, win, or you get back to the plan. Are you good at celebrating?
Um, so I'm definitely good at, I like to acknowledge people and tell them thank you and really highlight what they did, particularly as team members go above and beyond and really, you know,
Yeah.
just really overperform. I'm always trying to acknowledge people that do that. And me personally, yeah, I mean, I'll take time to celebrate, particularly if we have a win or if something really works out well, or it's like, wow, I'm really proud of what I did. But
Yeah.
it's short-lived, right? You could take a moment to acknowledge it and
Yeah.
certainly appreciate that. But us specifically, we've got a lot of goals and we're very, very busy with on our growth plans. So
Yeah,
even
you're
if
still
you
a young
have
company, right? So there's still a lot on your plate, and yeah.
yeah, it's great to acknowledge wins and celebrate that, but it never lasts too long because there's always so much work to do, and we're focused on the vision of where we're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. So within this distribution industry, what do you think the lessons that the industry had learned over the last couple of years? You touched it a little bit earlier on, right, with the pandemic, but if you have to sum it up, what are the lessons we learned?
Um, well, again, right, it's because like in our space with e-commerce distribution, you look at the projections, the trends, where everything's heading, it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And you see all the time new partnerships where every business, maybe not just a traditional e-commerce business, but whether grocery or food or anything else, it's all trending towards faster, easier, more convenient, and now especially so much same day delivery. So
Yeah.
it's just, and obviously you have, like the Amazon effect where they've pioneered uh, such a incredibly excellent customer experience, right? And that puts a lot of pressure on everyone else because people have just become accustomed to that level of
Yeah.
service, and
Yeah. Can I get it tonight? Right? Yeah. No.
yeah. I mean, you see that
Hey,
you
my
see that
kids
all
are
the
like,
time.
why is it not here? I'm like, dude, we didn't order it for Amazon. It takes longer sometimes.
Yeah, so
Mm.
just really trying to innovate and be creative on how we can be more efficient, how we can deliver better service,
Yeah.
um, given where we are and what our capabilities are, and just always focusing on improvement because, ultimately the customer, right? I mean, customer satisfaction is so huge, not only for
Yeah.
our customers and then, for us as well. So you just always have to be, just focus on
Yeah, you have to nurturing
customer
them, right?
experience.
Yeah. You need them, right? Otherwise you don't have your business. So
Yeah,
that
you don't have a business without
yeah,
without
without the
customers for
customers.
sure.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so my last question here, and I always love this question. So, if you have, David, you should give yourself like an advice like 10 years ago, or you can go 20 years. It's up to you. What kind of advice would that be?
The biggest thing I would say is just don't be afraid to go for it, and certainly follow what's in your heart regardless of what anyone thinks about it. So I would just say that. And I see that especially even I interact with so many people, so many different people now as I'm growing this business. And I come across people many times where maybe they're in a role and they're not happy and they want to do something else, but there's just something holding them back, and they just
Yeah.
kind of, what if it doesn't work, or what if I fail, or what, so um I would just that's the advice I would give is just don't be afraid to go for it and follow what's in your heart, and obviously put the work in and persevere, but at the same time don't let any fear or what are they going to think or any of that kind of stuff hold you back from doing what you really feel compelled to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And look into your network, right? Ask for help or ask for ideas or support or feedback as well that can move you along. If you just sit by yourself and have nobody to talk to, right? It can be a little bit more uphill to get there. So reach out as well, I think is important.
100%, 100%. And yeah, like you said, the network right now, uh, more than ever, right? The world is so interconnected and the world is so big. There's so many incredible resources you can tap into,
Yeah.
that, definitely utilize that and use it to make yourself better.
Yeah. Awesome. So if any one of the listeners wants to connect with you, how can they reach out to you?
So I'm always on LinkedIn, so that's a great way to connect with me there. Otherwise, you can go to davegulas.com. That's DAVEGULAS.com. So there's links to everything I do with EZDC 3PL, with the Beyond Fulfillment podcast, with Freight by Dave. So if anyone has freight they need to move, I have a solution for that as well. And then I'm going to link this podcast on there, and I've got an appearance section so that links to all the podcasts that I've been on. So if people want to hear, learn a little bit about me or see some other great podcasts, there's a section they can check out on that.
Awesome. And I will put it in the show notes and link. So it's easy if you're just on your phone, they'll connect you on LinkedIn. And I will also put it on the episode page on leadershipinmanufacturing.com. So there's no reason not to connect with you or with me. So Dave, thank you so much. I think it was great to hear a little bit different from where I am in my world, but it's also, I think it's so important to see how the leadership and the development and how we can become a better leader. It's all down to communication, and we can all, you can only improve, on how you communicate. It is so important, right? And then again, the key is the customer. And I think we are a customer ourselves when we interact with different things in the world, if it's at work or if it's at private. So we have to think about customer service. And I also want to say just a little pitch here to say, remember to say thank you when you do get good customer service. Because sometimes I feel bad with customer service if I'm always like the one complaining, right? So be sure to say thank you, because it has to be a tough job sometimes to be the one sitting there and listening to a customer.
100%, 100%. You nailed it with on that, Sana, for sure.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Leadership in Manufacturing podcast. I love that you're listening. Please find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to subscribe and rate us. Also, follow our LinkedIn page and Instagram, and check out leadershipinmanufacturing.com for previous episodes, blog posts, and our newsletter. So let's continue this journey together to become better leaders in the electronics industry. Remember, stay curious, keep learning. See you next time.